Hello, welcome to the video. So, quick recap. What have we been talking about? We've been talking about terminal. We've been talking about coding. Oh, it's not really coding, but it kind of feels like coding. We've been talking about distributions, how to install apps, how to install Linux, Windows Subsystem for Linux, which is a video that literally surrounds about terminal. All this talk about terminal. So for new Linux users, the terminal is scary. I understand that. I was once a new Linux user myself. I was once a new computer user. Terminals kind of always been there for me. Kind of always understood that it was there. I've dabbled in it before, but I've always been afraid of it. I don't want to screw anything up, kind of thing. So, this magical box, it does all the things, and with this simple command, you can do anything. Sure. But maybe you're like, I don't want this. I don't want terminal. I just want to use my computer. Okay, so how do you do that? Let's talk about distributions for a second. I know the last video I just made that I said the distributions don't matter, but if you're trying to not use terminal, it matters. Basically, you want an Ubuntu-based distribution. Fedora itself is pretty good as well, but I would even say stay clear of Fedora, because in Fedora world, you're going to have to open up terminal once or twice in order to do some things. So, first things first, installing applications. That's not that big of an issue. You got your software application here. It wants to update its catalog apparently, but you can just use your software application, install apps, no big deal. It doesn't have it up there, no problem. Fire up Firefox, and when that comes up, you're like, okay, I don't like Firefox, I like Google Chrome. Okay, Google Chrome's not in the software thing. Chrome.com, download an installer. Simple, easy. Another thing that a lot of people use the terminal for, editing files. One of the frequent things that you'll see, especially if you're talking about somebody writing a program, is, I'm going to switch it over to desktop real quick for demonstration purposes so you can see. You'll see them use Nano, which is a text editor. Nano text.txt, and now this is a file. Now we're saving it, and files are popping up, and we're doing all this. Okay. That's not necessary. You can do Word. Well, it's not called Word. It's LibreOffice Writer. There's other, like LeafPad. There's another one. I don't think I have that installed. Notepad. There's all kinds of things. I would like to state, though, there are things that are literally impossible to do without terminal. So for some things, some tasks, if you will, it's just easier to say, I want my terminal window. For example, installing Wine. Wine is a compatibility layer, and to install it, what you want to do is you go to winehq.org, which is their website. Now, if you follow the download links on this said website, you will see that it's not a typical download, at least not for Linux. For the Mac OS version, it is, but this isn't Mac OS, this is Linux, obviously, right? So we're on Ubuntu, you click Ubuntu, and it gives you these commands. Unfortunately, for this particular software, that is the only way. So you want to do, you have to do all this. Now you're copying and pasting and you don't know what you're doing. But all this aside, even for Wine, there are workarounds. 10 years ago, if you had said that I want to use Linux without terminal, you would have been laughed out of the building. But even now, if you come to Wine, if you come to software and you type in Wine, and you let it load up, you'll see that there are front-end applications for Wine that you can install and use instead. And I'm not seeing any of them at the moment. But see, even Adobe Acrobat Reader. I know I've been saying this a lot in the series, but Linux is very versatile. It's a lot more versatile than it used to be. And it's quite amazing what you can do with it in today's world. If you want to use terminal and you're like, I want to use terminal and I want to just do all the things with terminal, you can do that. If you want to not use terminal, that's okay too. If you want to customize it and literally build your own operating system around the Linux kernel, you can do that as well. With all that being said though, like I said at the beginning of the video, distribution. If your goal is to not use the terminal, let's go over a few things here. Let's open up a notepad and I'm just going to write out a few distributions, right? So first of all, Ubuntu, that's going to be the friendly one. Obviously, Mint, always good for beginners, / not terminal. Personally, I'm going to say Pop! OS. That's also a really good beginner and not terminal and gaming, so that's important to some people. I'm going to say this as well. I think what might be easier for you is what to stay away from. So what do you want to stay away from? Stay away from Arch if you don't want to use terminal. Manjaro. Fedora. Anything where you're going to have to be changing a lot of things. I would stay away from that if your goal is not terminal. And the reason I say that is because setup's going to require terminal. That being said, even still, if you're like, okay, I want a good operating system that's stable and I want to be able to do updates and I want to be able to do everything I need to do without going in terminal. But I'm willing to take the time and put it into terminal at the beginning while setting it up. That opens up Arch Linux. And quick side tangent, installing Arch Linux by yourself with the use of the wiki and not using a script is very rewarding, and it teaches you a lot about how Linux itself works. So if you're willing to go into that, I would say definitely try that. Anyway, yeah, I just kind of wanted to basically get on here and say, to everybody who's like, if you're on terminal, if you're on Linux, you have to use terminal. That is not true. That is not true. Maybe 5 or 10 years ago, and there's probably Linux people that's going to possibly see this video and down credit me and say that's not true. If you want the true Linux experience, you need to be using terminal, and there's some truth to that, but if you just want your computer to work, I just want it to work. I want it to be stable. I don't want to have to worry about security. I don't want to worry with Microsoft or Apple. This is definitely a thing. And especially with the day, there's so many things that are just web-based apps anyway, that there are definitely days where I hop on my laptop, I hop on my computer, and I don't even think about terminal, let alone open it. It's very possible, and it's definitely a thing. So I just wanted to get up here and say that. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it informational. Have a good morning, have a good night, have a good afternoon. Thank you for watching. Peace out.